Dear friends, here in Israel we are commemorating or remembering the soldiers that have fallen in the battles for Israel in recent times. They're not remembering specifically the ancient ones.
No.
But today we're going on with restoring or healing of this nation.
The restoration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very much more complicated than what we can imagine. Because everything that was done in the past, in the very beginning, becomes enlarged and reflected till today. The people that were born had their influence, and then the ones that were born from them, and so on and so forth. So God is dealing with Israel, the person, through Israel, his nation. Israel is still with us. He's a nation. It's like the body has grown larger. It's including that we see in our body. We're not aware of every cell, but there's billions of cells in our body. And so this body of Israel has grown to be a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Now the complications start back in Israel's time, the man Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we were dealing with this nation Israel, which is at the moment Judah.
Right.
But I want to deal with that, but I also want to deal with Joseph, because the two parts that's the healing, the restoring that we're trying to make.
And all the prophets talk about this restoration.
Right, the restoration of Joseph to Judah.
Right.
And they become one nation.
Yeah. I mean, it's the promise. It's all 12. It's not just Judah, but Judah is here.
Right, and Joseph is head of the other 10.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to understand something more of Joseph. I realized that this morning when I was studying how he deals with Judah. It talks about Judah and Joseph, Judah and Joseph.
Uh-huh.
However, there's a few verses that talk about two elements of Joseph, and they're Manasseh, or Manasseh in American English, and Ephraim. Ephraim is, I can't remember how we pronounce that in English.
Right.
Do we pronounce it different than that in English?
Ephraim?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Those are two parts of Judah, or Joseph, because Joseph was leading the 10 tribes.
Right. That was when after the division after King Solomon.
Right. And so I just want to remind you again of what happened.
Okay.
That Jacob calls Joseph to come, and he comes with his two sons. And Joseph arranges them so that the oldest one, Manasseh, would get the blessing.
Yeah.
So he has him on the right and left of his father. But Israel stretched out his hand, and he crosses his hands.
Right. Uh-huh.
So that his right hand goes on to Ephraim's head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joseph is a little disturbed by this because he wants his father to know that the firstborn was Manasseh.
Right.
And then he knows that Israel doesn't see real well. So he thinks it's just an error of not seeing which son was which. That's why he talks to his father about it. And Jacob says to him, let's see, where was it? Now Israel's eyes were dim with age, and he could not see. So Joseph brought them close, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel's, I expect to see you again, and here God is to let me see your children. And Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed low with his face to the ground. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right and brought them close. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, though he was younger, and his left hand on Manasseh, thus crossing his hands. Although Manasseh was the firstborn, he blessed Joseph, saying, now notice, the blessing is going to Joseph, but it's going through these two sons.
Yeah.
The God in whose ways my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who's been my shepherd from my birth to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the lads. In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So we've got teemings of people on this earth
Yeah, right.
who are Manasseh
Mm-hmm.
and Ephraim. When Joseph saw that his father
That's because they've gone out to all these nations and we don't know where they are exactly.
yeah, they got dispersed.
Yeah, but people research that too.
Yes, and we have several references I can give. When Joseph saw that his father was placing on his right hand, he thought it wrong, so he took hold of his father's hand and moved it from Ephraim's hand to Manasseh. Not so, Father, Joseph said.
Yeah,
For
so
the
he
other
tried
is the
to
firstborn.
change the hands
He
because
tried to get it all right.
he didn't like what was happening. Yeah.
But his father objected, saying, I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people.
Mm-hmm.
He too shall be great.
Yeah. So he's talking about both of them.
No, he's talking about Manasseh.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Ephraim would be the firstborn though.
Yeah, yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his
Yeah.
offspring shall be plentiful.
Right. I mean, that's what I say. They both will be great.
But the greatness of Ephraim is because he has more people.
Oh.
But he is also a ruler. So he blessed them that day, saying, by you shall Israel invoke blessing, saying, God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, and they still do. Even Judah
Yeah.
blesses his children
Yeah.
to be like Ephraim
That's right.
and Manasseh.
Every Shabbat we pray that.
So, how do we see these two people in the world today? Yair Dividi has done a lot of research.
Yeah. Do they know who he is?
I don't know, but you can go online. He's called Brit Om.
Brit. Oh, okay.
Okay. And he goes by the characteristics of nations and peoples, what they've done, also by anthropology, DNA, things, artifacts, all kinds of things. And he's established which nations are characteristic of the 10 tribes of Israel. He says Britain is Ephraim because Britain had so many, he ruled there's a saying that Britain rules the seas from east to west, you know, that wherever you go, you find Britain. So Britain had Hong Kong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had the
India.
islands of the sea in the southeast.
They were in New Guinea.
They were in New Guinea. They were everywhere. And but one of the things that happened to Britain is when they went against their promise to Judah,
Oh, yes.
the Balfour Declaration.
Especially before the Second World War and even during the Second World War.
Yeah, well, so they promised it in 17 in the middle of the war.
Right.
They began
Well, that
to
was that was at the end of the First World War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's when they rescinded that. They didn't follow through on it. And they began to lose their kingdom.
Yeah, they kept chipping away from that land that they originally.
Well, that's what happened. They lost India. They lost it.
Yeah.
They had the vestiges of it in Australia. They even lost a great deal of control in Johannesburg and South Africa.
South Africa.
So then what happened? We're reading it in this book written by
Oren. Michael Oren.
Michael Oren.
Yeah.
Michael Oren. He has a very good history.
What's the name of the book?
Faith, Fact, and Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah, Faith, Fact, and Fantasy. Very, very good. The whole history of U.S. involvement in the Middle East.
Yeah. And we show that he shows that America is becoming more powerful than Britain in the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens is also Menashe turns out to be America.
Yeah.
And even some people want to say, well, no, America is Ephraim. There's a big argument about that.
Yeah.
But your DVD says, yeah, well, some of Ephraim did come into America.
Yeah.
And so America is primarily Menashe, but it's
Has
got
Ephraim.
some Ephraim too. Now, I've been thinking about this. Now, I know your DVD did say, well, Ephraim is reflected in the South because they had the criteria of layers of society.
Okay.
Like the top dog is the landowner, and he acts like a
king,
little king.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he has slaves, and he didn't like that being broken up.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a civil war in America.
Okay.
And technically, the two being here or being there, we're in Israel.
Yeah, right.
Being there make up all of Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because Joseph includes both.
He includes both, and he
includes
also
10, actually.
and then all the immigration that has come from all the nations. You find the rest of the 10 represented in America.
Now, why do you say 10 instead of 11?
Oh, it's just a technicality of 12 tribes.
Because one was with Judah, right?
Right.
Okay.
Which is also very complicated. And so you get...
And Levites are not counted as one of the 12.
No. You get the associates of Judah and the associates of Joseph.
Yeah.
In the book of Ezekiel chapter 37.
Okay.
But I wanted to focus today just a little bit on this thing that needs to be healed in Ephraim.
Okay.
Or in Joseph.
Okay.
And we see it in, I'm trying to find my marker here, in Isaiah 9. This is the chapter that Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, who is not really a Jew.
Rabbi.
I mean, he calls himself a Jew, but he's really a Christian Jew, if there is such a thing. And he likes to say this is prophetic in chapter 9, where it talks about the bricks have fallen, we will build and dress the stones, sycamores have been filled. That was fulfilled back when it was prophesied, and they fell. To me, it is not being repeated to the degree that it necessarily says America will fall, because America is the representing these people of Samaria.
Okay.
But it points to the fact of who Samaria is, because they did all the things that are said there.
Okay.
They said these words. They quoted them when the towers came down.
Okay. Oh.
So that identifies who it is.
Okay.
At the end of that chapter, this also happened, but it's reflected in America today. Menashe, he talks about the fury of the Lord of hosts, the earth was shaken. Next, the people became the devouring fire. No man spared his countrymen. They snatched on the right, but remained hungry, and consumed on the left, and became sated. Each devoured the flesh of his own kindred, Menashe Ephraim's, and Ephraim Menashe's, and both of them against Judah. Okay. England became against Judah.
Right.
They lost out. Okay, that's Ephraim.
Right.
America as Menashe could lose out too.
Yeah.
And where they have their problem is in the State Department. The state would, Michael Oren gives us very clearly how the State Department was the one that they were really up against all the time. And sometimes America didn't help them, sometimes America did, depending on whether the president had enough authority or could override them.
Right.
So they're both against Judah. So that means this element of Ephraim and Manasseh in America is at each other.
Yeah.
So you have the Civil War, and they're now that we could say, well, we're united, but that seems to not be healed yet, because you've got one party that represents Ephraim in the South that had slaves and never was really happy about the outcome. They now they managed to promise these black people that were left in America free, they managed to convince them that they could supply all of their needs through this government.
Right.
So they got the black people on their side, 98% at one point, voting for them.
Yeah.
So now the blacks are beginning to recognize that they never fulfilled any of their promises.
Right.
And they're leaving. And this is creating a great conflict that the people are leaving the block of Ephraimites because they aren't getting what they wanted. So the struggle goes on between Ephraim and Manasseh. And the country will be divided again if they don't quit eating each other up.
Yeah.
That's how we're seeing this played out. But one hope.
Yeah.
In the Genesis thing, when Israel blesses each of his sons, he talks about Joseph. He doesn't talk about Ephraim and Manasseh as separate entities anymore.
Okay.
He says Joseph takes all these arrows and all this stuff that comes against him, and he stands firm.
Wow.
To me, that's the hope.
Yeah.
That this battle in the northern group will be healed.
Wow.
God's going to do it some
That's
way.
a good message. That's a good message.
And that's the hope I want to put in the hearts of anyone who listens to this.
Okay.
That situation in America that looks like it's breaking up the country can actually be healed.
Yeah. Wow.
Because God is going to put Joseph, the stick that's in Ephraim's hand, he's going to put this Joseph together with Judah.
Yeah.
And there's everything that says that this is going to happen, that there will be the healing between Joseph and Judah. Now, where is Judah in all this? How are we doing in time? It looks like we've run out of time for today. So I'm going to show, because I sent out to my group that gets my email, an article about this Palestinian party that's being trying to form by the Palestinians, or the Arabs, they call themselves, that wants to live here under the Judah regime, or the government here.
Yeah.
This is heading towards the right direction. It's got its problems, and I'll try to deal with that too.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to show you where that is in the Bible.
Okay.
If you accept what the Bible says clear at the beginning of Genesis, and who these people are and how God is dealing with them, if you can accept that Israel is his firstborn son, and he has to bring that nation into its destination, then you will be able to understand the prophets. I hear over and over again people that say, I don't understand the prophets. You can understand it if you accept the basis of each thing that is said in progression through the Torah.
People need that. Yeah. That's very
Once
helpful.
you accept the Torah the way it says, what it says, and don't try to make it something only a picture of,
Right.
then you can see the pictures that are given in the prophets. So I just leave that note with you, and we'll talk about Judah next week. and what they're dealing with here now because of all the things that have happened.
Wow, that'll be
And
interesting.
prophesied.
Yeah, I can hardly wait.
Okay. Okay. Good.